welcome back to a very special episode of Cryptids and Critters. My co-host here seems to have been replaced. And I don't have my other co-host. So, please tell us your name.
My name is not of importance, but if you must know, I can't do it.
Alright. We're good. So today we're talking about the wendigo. And as you can see, we're not keeping this whole charade up for all the episode. Please don't.
No.
We can't do that. We can't make that joke run that long. But I'm not the best person to talk about the wendigo with because I don't know much. William? What do you know?
From what I know, the wendigo is more of a...
You're going to have to talk louder.
From what I know, the wendigo is a deer with something with a deer skull with its ribs usually showing in the front, or bony.
You might have to put that right there.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Bloopers. Blooper one.
This might be kept in. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, it picked up pretty good right there.
All right.
So, what do you know? Repeat what you know, please.
The wendigo is a creature that
It's multiple different things.
It's
I know more about the mythological one. You probably know more about the
cultism.
the cultism, the more pop culture variant.
Yes.
With the deer head.
Yes.
And the very grotesque body. So I mostly only know it from the actual mythology of it just being a pale-skinned cannibal with a cold heart. Yeah, so as I'm looking here, it is a giant humanoid with a heart of ice whose approach is signaled by a foul stench or sudden unseasonable chill. Okay, yeah, we're getting into mythology here, all right?
Yeah.
But screw it. So it has been widely used in literature and other works of art, such as social commentary and horror fiction, which makes sense. It is known as an evil spirit. I'm not going to try and pronounce where it originates from, but it originates from Native American folklore, from the Canada to United States region, so basically most of northern indigenous tribes. It's often seen as a malevolent spirit, depicted as a creature with human-like or characteristics which possesses human beings. Okay. Yeah, a little makes sense. The victims causes a feeling of insatiable hunger, desire to eat other humans, murder, like the propensity to commit murder. In some representations, yeah. Now, there's a in modern psychiatric, I think that's how it is. There's a disorder known as wendigo psychosis, which is horrifying to think about if that's true. Why'd you look at me like that? I don't feel safe. Characterized by symptoms of intense craving for human flesh and fear of becoming a cannibal. It's also described as a culture-bound syndrome. So it's good it doesn't truly exist. In some First Nation communities, some symptoms such as insatiable greed and destruction of the environment are also thought to be symptoms of wendigo psychosis. So it just seems like a more kind of pop culture disease thing, mental illness. So we don't have to worry about that, even though cannibalism still does exist in some uncontacted tribes. But it's not to the level of wendigo, I think. I'll have to do my research on that. So, tell us what you know.
From what the wendigo in pop culture standards has been depicted differently.
Yes.
For obvious reasons. Well, not obvious reasons, but just for the funs of it, which would be usually something with a deer skull with giant glows in overly proportioned body parts.
Yeah.
Which some of them, let's say, go into gang culture. He would be animalistic in some places, I would say.
Yeah.
Just trying to kill and hunt and eat and stuff, while there are other things that worship him as a being of...
Fringe power.
Power, I guess. Yeah. It's also seen as the wendigo that could also bring people strange feelings of delusions and stuff. So I could see why the illness come into play as some of these pop culture games and movies and TVs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there's even a movie called The Wendigo, which
I have not watched.
it's not good. I'm just saying it's not good. Without, like, it basically goes into depict as the Wendigo being possessing this man, going around his village and killing people, which is, well, Wendigo.
Good idea, but not good
And
execution.
apparently there's also a grandma using a dream catcher to stop the Wendigo somehow, so that's just a little weird. Anyway. But yes, the Wendigo is depicted in other different forms, either with him having deer antlers and giant proportional body parts, and ribs showing from its chest area, with usually deer or goat hooves as feet, or just giant claw feet as either one. And
so we're getting the information that there's also a game that focuses on the wendigo called Until Dawn. I think I've actually seen gameplay of it. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty fun. Hold on, let me search up images. So keep talking.
which is also one of the Wendigo could also be seen as a figure of power and a being of nature, as in some of these pop culture games, even having statues and shrines of these things with ancient magic and stuff. But there's also another thing about the Wendigo is it's very highly debated if it's a cryptid or not.
Oh, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Until Dawn. It's not what I've seen gameplay of. Maybe though. Maybe I've seen clips of it. But it is a true horror game through and through. Wait, do they have a? Oh, they may have a. Okay, so that's a movement controller. I don't think they have it in VR.
That'd be terrifying.
That would be anything like that would be horrifying. So, they say they're going to make a remake for PS5. I might try and play it. It sounds fun. It also sounds horrifying. But I know there are also a ton of other games that use the Wendigo as well. There's one that's more of an indie game, I'm pretty sure, that uses them as well.
Isn't there like also a game where you hunt down?
That's what I'm talking.
Yeah.
There's multiple of those.
Heresy, I tell you, but anyway.
You have to hit that heresy though. So I think I'm looking through it. So the description, but we've gone through most of it. Seen as malevolent, cannibalistic, supernatural being. They were strongly associated with winter, the north, coldness, famine, and starvation. And that can be seen through the design choices of most Wendigo's designs, with protruding bones, loose hanging skin. Well, full-fledged Wendigo, not just taking over the body of another person. But the either showing protruding or showing bones, the very lack of muscle mass, the lack of muscle mass that you can see in a lot of these things, the visible ribs, yeah, the famined aspect, the starvation and famined aspect really comes into play in pretty much every design for it. But in the original design, you can really tell because it was Basil H. Johnson, an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, gives the Wendigo a description. The Wendigo is a grunt to the point of was gaunt to the point of emanciation. I think that's how it's said, but starvation basically. Skin pulled tightly over its bones pushed out against its skin. Its complexion was the ash gray of death. Its eyes pushed deep back into their sockets. It looked like a gaunt skeleton recently pulled from the grave. Its lips were tattered and bloody, unclean, suffering from supper. I don't know how to say that. The Wendigo gave off a strange, eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. And then it says they were many times larger than human beings. And this is in some lore. A lot of lore, they were many times bigger than human beings. Whenever a Wendigo ate a person, it would grow proportionally. It would grow in proportion to the meal it had just eaten, so it could never be full. Okay. Therefore, Wendigos are portrayed simultaneously as gluttonous and extremely thin due to starvation. Wendigos are seen as the embodiment of gluttony, greed, and excess. Never satisfied after killing and consuming one person, they constantly are in search for new victims. Now, we're getting into another part of its stuff. It does not lose the voice of the person. Very much like another cryptid that we may go over, may not. I really want to get out of North America at this point. Okay, we're going over it. Maybe. But it does not use its cognition or lose its cognition or speech in some depictions, and can clearly communicate with its prospective victims, or even threaten or taunt them. Okay, I think we're just kidding, but yeah, there are many stories of it manipulating people. Human cannibalism is another thing about it. Taboo reinforcement ceremony involving wearing masks, dancing backwards around a drum. I don't feel good right now. I don't like this. Psychosis. Concept of a metaphor. As a concept or a metaphor. It's... Oh. Yeah, we're not getting into that. So, in pop culture though, first appearance in novel was 1910. Over 100 years ago, if you think about it. In mainstream fiction, The Thing That Walked on the Wind, and I don't know how to pronounce that. And then there's the second book, that was in 1933, and then 1941, which in turn inspired the character in Stephen King's Pet Sematary. His personification of evil, an ugly, grinning creature with yellow, gray eyes, ears replaced by ram horns, white vapors coming from its nostrils, and pointed, decaying yellow tongue. This was the template for later portrayals, even replacing the Native American lore. At times, in another book, Morality and Mercy in Vienna, published in 1959, the plot centers around a character developing wendigo syndrome, or probably wendigo psychosis, and going on a killing spree. Okay. In 1973, a character inspired by the Wendigo appeared in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. It first appeared in Incredible Hulk issue 162 in 1973, and again in October 1974 issue. So there are many forms that's been seen, and it appears in various other creatures based on the legend or named for it, appear in various films and televisions, including Dark Was the Night, Ravenous, Lone Ranger, which the former was in 1999, Lone Ranger in 2013, and the 2021 film Antlers by Scott Cooper, where it was portrayed like a deer-like creature with a glowing heart that moves from person to person with a never-ending hunger. And there's some in Fallout in 2008, Fallout 76, another game called Dusk. So in 2018, there was a novel in 1995. So it's appeared a lot. I mean, I can see why. It gives a good horror element to a story. And it's good for a mystery-based game, mystery-based first-person game, or first-person shooter game. You have to hunt it. I've just been looked at. So, opinions, thoughts, whatever.
There's another topic we should probably bring up about the Wendigo is there's a highly debated.
If it's not a cryptid or not.
Yeah, there's.
I mean, it's mythology.
Yeah, because you heard where it came from.
Mythology always has some hint of truth at the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
No matter how little. it was probably inspired by cannibalism. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Which is, in and of itself, because how it's first depicted and described, that cannibalism. Now, the Wendigo is also not the only cryptid like this, or cryptid or mythological creature. You also have the skinwalker, which I may go over later in another episode, but not today. So anything else, William, before we wrap this up?
I think that's about it.
That's about it?
Yeah.
You have nothing else you want to add?
Join the cult now.
Please don't. We don't condone cult behaviors.
Commit cannibalism.
Anyway, we're going to be wrapping it up. See y'all in the next episode.